we celebrate one of the most well-known character actresses of the movies, Hattie McDaniel. As you'll discover, she was much more than a multi-talented performer. She made history as the first African-American to win an Academy Award for her performance as Mammy in Gone with the Wind. But life was not always easy for this courageous woman. Now, she met the forces of racism head-on, yet also faced criticism from other people of her own race who objected to the type of parts that she played. Narrated by Whoopi Goldberg, the only other African-American woman to win an acting Oscar, here is Beyond Terra, the extraordinary life of Hattie McDaniel.
Hattie McDaniel was an authentic Hollywood pioneer, a black woman who became a star despite insurmountable odds. At a time when opportunities for black actors were severely limited, she found a way to make her own voice be heard. She poured her considerable talent into more than 70 roles, and by bringing a new depth to the role of Mammy in Gone with the Wind, she won the coveted Academy Award, the first black actor to do so. It would be almost 25 years before that would happen again, and another 26 years before another black woman won the Oscar. In 1942, Hattie brought this 15-room mansion in a Los Angeles neighborhood then known as Sugar Hill, named for an elegant section of New York's Harlem. Now, moving into this neighborhood meant that Hattie had finally arrived. But Gone with the Wind, the pinnacle of her career, triggered a storm of controversy about the character of Mammy. It engulfed Hattie's life in ways she never expected and turned what should have been her biggest triumph into a tragedy. This is her story. On December 15th, 1939, Atlanta, Georgia played host to its first ever movie premiere, Gone with the Wind. Producer David O. Selznick had boasted he would deliver the greatest movie ever made, based on a book that had been the greatest seller of all time. But he knew, for his movie to succeed, he'd have to have a strong lineup of first-class actors. He cast Clark Gable as Rhett Butler, Vivien Leigh as Scarlett O'Hara, Olivia de Havilland as Melanie Wilkes, and completing the ensemble of principal players, the woman who would become the most celebrated black actress of her time, Hattie McDaniel, as Mammy. Hattie once told a reporter that before Gone with the Wind, she'd only played minor parts, and she hoped that this role would be a breakthrough.
It was a very important role. It was a pivotal role in the film. She brought a great deal of humanity to the role. She's terrifically affecting and moving in parts of that movie, which no black character had been before in the movie.
For Hattie to land a role in Gone with the Wind was truly a coup. In the 1930s, black actresses struggled to make it in the movies, competing fiercely with one another just to play each predictable role. Mammy in Gone with the Wind offered a rare chance at a three-dimensional character, and every black actress fought for the part. But Hattie received the best recommendations. Bing Crosby, who had seen her in Showboat, told producer Selznick she was the perfect Mammy.
Out of my way, you.
Who wants to get in your way?
Hey, you, wait a minute.
What you want?
Where'd you get that gold brooch?
You mean this scrumptious piece of jewelry?
Yeah, where'd you get it?
Just give it to me.
Clark Gable also suggested Hattie.
Look at that ski ball go, man. Look at her go.
He knew firsthand how good she was.
She don't mean nothing, Mr. Duke. That's just her way.
Rosetta, I love you.
But at her audition, Hattie sold herself to Selznick. Unlike her competition, she went to the trouble of finding a costume and appearing fully realized as Mammy.
You're going to eat every mouthful of this.
When Selznick saw her perform, he said, "I can almost smell the magnolias," and he immediately canceled all other auditions. Thereafter, every candidate for Scarlett had to test against Hattie.
Suck in.
Mother's a lady and she always eats at parties.
When you get mad, you can eat too.
Ah, fiddle-de-dee.
Keep your shawl on your shoulders. I ain't aiming for you to get all freckled after the buttermilk I done put on you all this winter, bleaching them freckles you got on the beach in Savannah.
She's probably one of the most memorable people in the film. I think most people who see the film remember her as much as they remember Scarlett and Rhett. For some people, they remember her more than they remember Scarlett and Rhett.
Keep your shawl on your shoulders. I ain't aiming for you to get all freckled after the buttermilk I done put on you all this winter, bleaching them freckles.
She brought nuances to that role that didn't exist before.
Oh, now, Miss Scarlett, you come on and be good and eat.
She brought a complexity to the role that didn't exist before. She brought a dramatic power to this role that did not exist before.
If you don't care what folks says about this family, I does. I has told you and told you that you can always tell a lady but the way that she eat in front of folks like a bird. And I ain't aiming for you to go to Mr. John Wilkins's and eat like a field hand and gobble like a hog.
Fiddle-dee-dee. Ashton Wilkes told me he likes to see a girl with a healthy appetite.
What gentleman says and what they thinks is two different things. And I ain't noticed Mr. Ashley asking for to marry you.
She played the most complex character, black character in American film to this point when she's playing this role. I'm sure she sees this as a big step forward. This is going to be something that's going to help liberate black actors to get better roles, serious roles, and things of this nature, because I'm in a drama and I'm not operating in this thing as comic relief. I'm operating in this thing with the same kind of dramatic importance as Olivia de Havilland and the other people in it. So I'm sure she must have thought of the role as being a breakthrough. And in that respect, it was a breakthrough.
But in 1939, there were passionate objections to the role of Mammy. Black Americans who were fighting for the most basic civil rights felt that the image was holding them back, and they began a movement to wipe it out. What Hattie saw as a step forward, her critics saw as a significant step back.
Black people had very mixed feelings about this film because it shows that slavery was really this intricate set of family relations, and the slaves weren't beaten. They were brought into the house. They were part of the family. White people basically like this character because she's nurturing, who really looks after the white children. For black people, it's a whole nother set of problems because showed that black women were more loyal to white people than they were to their own families.
Miss Scott, Miss Sewell, Miss Green, your mom's home.
We call them uncle and aunt and all this sort of stuff, and they were part of this whole fictive kinship thing.
Cookie, stir up the fire. Miss Ellen's home. Miss Ellen got no business wearing herself out. Pup?
Yes, ma'am.
Take the lamp out on the porch. Wearing herself out. Mr. Gerald, Miss Ellen's home. Wearing herself out waiting on the poor white train. Tell up, dog.
That figure becomes extremely important for granting approval to slavery.
More than any other stereotype, Mammy was entrenched in American culture. With her big smile and exaggerated features, this distorted image of a black woman was used to sell everything from detergent to pancake mix. Hattie understood that Mammy was unsettling for some black people to see on screen, but she felt in Gone with the Wind she could create a character that would rise above the stereotype, and this would do far more good than harm. She said, "I wanted to turn this stock role into a living, breathing character." In Atlanta, her fans turned out in droves for Gone with the Wind's premiere. They couldn't wait to see her. But when the Gone with the Wind stars arrived from Hollywood with David O. Selznick, Vivian Leigh, Olivia de Havilland, Clark Gable, all of the principal stars, one was missing, Hattie McDaniel. She had not been invited. Hattie might have been a star in Hollywood, but in Atlanta, because of her race, there was no way she could participate.
Gone with the Wind's premiere played out exactly in Atlanta as anything else would have. A big march down Peachtree Street, high school bands, receptions, and so on, totally segregated.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've spent quite a good deal of my time on Peachtree Street this year.
I want to see Gone with the Wind the same as you do.
So that the Hattie McDaniel, who had a significant place every day they were shooting her scenes, had no place when the premiere happened.
If Hattie McDaniel was disappointed about being excluded from the premiere, she didn't let anybody know. In fact, to save her boss, David O. Selznick, any embarrassment, she wrote him a letter indicating she would be unavailable for any appearances during that time. The fact that Hattie and the rest of the black cast was excluded from the premiere angered Atlanta's black leaders, but they aimed their strongest criticism at the movie itself, and in particular, Hattie's portrayal of Mammy.
I think by the late 1930s, black Americans were quite disturbed because they were attempting to elevate themselves socially, politically, economically, and they certainly didn't need this sort of symbolic reminder of their slave past.
To express their determination, black leaders organized something unexpected, a protest on the evening of the premiere. Volunteers were enlisted as pickets, many carrying signs which read, "Negroes were never docile slaves. You'd be sweet too under the whip, and no mo mammy." The protest at the premiere of Gone with the Wind was the first against the movie. Everywhere it opened thereafter, demonstrations followed. Nonetheless, moviegoers flocked to the Civil War epic and applauded its spectacular performances. After years of struggle and perseverance, Hattie was finally receiving the fame and recognition she'd always longed for. She was delighted with the praise she received from the press and from her fellow actors. As Mammy, Hattie had reached the pinnacle of her career, but her moment of glory would not last long. Forces of change were at work that Hattie had not foreseen. Everything she had worked so hard to achieve would soon be swept away. Coming up, the backlash that nearly destroyed Hattie's career. And next, the incredible struggle for a black actor in 1930s Hollywood.
Clark Gable played a practical joke on McDaniel during the Gone with the Wind shoot by putting real alcohol in her glass during a scene where Rhett and Mammy toast. We'll be back with more on AMC's Hollywood Lives and Legends. Tonight on AMC, set sail with Henry Fonda, James Cagney, and Jack Lemmon in Mr. Roberts. Then, Whoopi Goldberg narrates a profile of the first African-American actress to win an Oscar in AMC's original documentary, Beyond Terra, The Extraordinary Life of Hattie McDaniel. And on Film Preservation Classics, Alec Baldwin hosts the widescreen version of Stanley Donen's Charade, starring Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them.
Hi, Bob Goodman here to show you how renting the Rug Doctor can give you professional carpet cleaning results for a fraction of the cost. It's easy. Rug Doctor's professional hot water extraction system delivers deep down cleaning power that home machines just can't match. Rug Doctor's compact, lightweight design makes it easy for anyone to rent and use. Rent the Rug Doctor and get professional results in an easy-to-use, easy-to-rent machine that will save you time and money.
Available in the front of most supermarkets. Call 1-800-RUG-DOCTOR for the location nearest you.
Hello, Mrs. Lindsay. William?
Hello, Stephen.
You're not by any chance computer shopping, are you?
Mm-hmm. If I can get some help.
Well, right now, you can get a complete Dell system with an Intel Pentium 4 processor, which is so nice, for only $9.99.
Really?
She's intrigued. Excellent. Because right now, it comes with your choice of a free CD burner or DVD upgrade. And as far as service and support, Dell's won more awards than any other PC company in the last 5 years. Just call or go online. Tell them what you want, and right to your front door comes America's favorite PC.
Thanks, Stephen.
Now you can get a Dell desktop with an Intel Pentium 4 processor, which delivers performance where you need it most. And 6 months of DellNet by MSN Internet access for just $9.99. Call or go online today and get a free CD burner or DVD upgrade. There's great deals on notebooks, too.
Dude, you're getting a Dell.
Easy to buy, easy to own, easy as Dell.
Now back to more of Hattie McDaniel on AMC's Hollywood Lives and Legends.
By the time Hattie McDaniel was cast in Gone with the Wind, she'd spent years sharpening her abilities as an entertainer. From a very early age, Hattie was a consummate performer, singer, dancer, comic. And like so many other entertainers of her day, Hattie cut her teeth in vaudeville before events took her to Hollywood. There, she would discover the harsh realities for black actors in those times. The only parts she could get were as maids. But rather than allowing her roles to define her, Hattie brought a level of sophistication and humor to this stereotype never before seen on screen. Hey, she was determined to make it. From the time she was a little girl, Hattie loved to perform. One of Hattie's earliest memories was watching her brothers and sisters do the cakewalk. Her father, Henry McDaniel, an ex-slave and banjo player, equated show business with freedom for his children. He didn't want Hattie, his youngest, to end up working as a domestic, one of the only jobs open to a black woman at the time. Henry McDaniel entered his children into local talent contests to earn cash prizes for the family. Hattie won over audiences with her infectious smile, quick wit, and perfect comic timing. Soon, the McDaniel children formed their own traveling variety show. They toured throughout the West, and Hattie was a headliner.
Well, the appeal of being a black actor was that you almost certainly made more money than the average black person did. You had more freedom, by and large. You traveled more. You got to live just generally, materially, a better life, and it was an interesting life.
Hattie remembered life on the road as a hard apprenticeship, but said the applause that she got from a spirited show made it all worthwhile.
I think Hattie McDaniel coming out of vaudeville really did make her who she was. Vaudeville would have to help her because she could have been booed off so many times, but she wasn't. She was a star.
She must be the very, very coldest creature in this town. He's been there for 7 days and nights, and now he's leaving soon.
And still she won't say,
I do. Ice cold Katie, won't you, man?
By the late 1920s, the McDaniel family show folded, a victim of changing taste in entertainment. Movies that were cheaper and easier to transport than performers were replacing live acts. The McDaniels gave up vaudeville and set off to try their luck in Hollywood. When the McDaniels arrived in Los Angeles, Hattie discovered that her reputation as a vaudeville star meant nothing. She couldn't get a part. To make ends meet, she resorted to work her father feared for her, domestic work, cleaning houses, washing laundry, and babysitting for white families. Nearly every week, however, she went to studio casting offices for cattle calls. These were mass auditions where for $3.50 a day, black actors would be cast as African savages, singing slaves, or domestics.
All the rest, I don't see how any man could help loving you. I don't give them any help, they do it themselves.
If you wanted to function as an actor, if you were black, that's where you were put. There was no question of you being the next door neighbor, the doctor, the lawyer, the friend of the leading man or woman. No way. It just was not thought of.
Blacks were given a place. Blacks were expected to fulfill a certain conscripted role. They were English garbling, slow-witted, and slow-footed caricatures of real blacks.
I'm looking for hillbillies as you are. I ain't saying I am and I ain't saying I ain't. Well, that's close enough for me, because I'm tired of walking myself. The government told me I got...
There was a lot of malapropisms, misusing big words and things like that.
That's the color of another horse.
In order to make money, to put bread on the table, you had to do popular things. And that meant that you had to do the kind of coon songs of the day, the kind of minstrelsy of the day, which people had mixed feelings about, obviously.
Hattie wanted something more, but when her chance finally came, she found some of the roles so offensive that she turned them down flat.
What does the black actor do? Does he take a step for his own integrity and say, I will not perform in what you have prescribed for me? Or does he try to make a living? Does he try in some way to fulfill his artistic desires and ambitions by at least getting to show I can pretend to be what I am really not?
I got to take down the judge's clothes.
Hattie decided to make the best of it. She didn't have a choice. She could only be cast as a maid. But she decided she'd only take roles she could somehow make her own.
Fix them up for the judge to wear.
Producers quickly discovered that Hattie was a comic genius.
Oh, it's you. I told you on the phone she won't go with you.
Now, Hilda, I just want to talk to her.
She don't want to talk to you. She even made me stop buying your paper. And besides, someone's come to take her to the charity ball.
I'll force my way in.
If you do, she told me to throw a pitcher of water plumb in your face.
I'll risk it.
It was orders. Dinner is served.
He works so hard in his terrible old factory, terrible new factory, I should say, that he simply must have lots of food to keep his strength up. I don't see why most businessmen can't leave most of the details to their employees. But then I suppose some of them are like that. They just allow the help to sit around idle while they do all the work.
One of the roles that Hattie McDaniel created in the 1930s was a playoff of one that had been just a convention in silent movies. That is, the black servant of a well-off white family.
She almost imprints her own sort of brand of acting on this particular role.
Hilda, the door. I heard it. I ain't deaf. Sometimes I wished I was.
And she does it through her assertiveness, her defiance, and most of all, her attitude.
Have you another piece of cake, Hilda?
Yes, I have, but the kitchen's closed for the night.
Hilda, Miss Beverly is our guest.
I didn't ask her.
I think in order for an actor, especially someone like Hattie, to make a role different is their interpretation of the line. You can come in and shuffle and gingerflex, all this if you want, but she never really did it. In the times that she was told to do it, she always came back and did a reading to the line that put the knife right in you.
Isabel. Isabel McCarthy.
Yes, sir?
Would you say that I look like a lady?
No, sir, Miss Dollar. I've been with you all too long to insult you that way.
Say, what's the difference? What's that snooty English dame got that I ain't?
She's more refined like. She would never wear that dress with all them shiny beads you got. That dress is more my type.
I never thought that she was just there for decoration. She came on with a bang, and she said what she had to say, and then she left.
He can't shake me off. I hopped off, see? And I'm glad I did. Do you hear that? I'm glad. I'm happy.
Sure you was happy, honey. But don't you worry. You'll get over it.
Hey, Rosetta, come on, give us a little song here.
Oh, Mr. Duke, I can't do that. Oh, all right. So you know why I'm feeling forlorn? I've been broke since the day I was born. I went broke.
Hattie was one of the few black actors in Hollywood who got steady work and decent pay. When critics reprimanded her for always playing a domestic, she said, "I'd rather play a maid and make $700 a week than be a maid for $7." By 1939, Hattie was one of the most famous black actors in Hollywood.
Hattie was a well-established star and living very well, getting lots and lots of film work, and she was an accepted entity in the black society world. I met Hattie informally a few times during those days at black social functions, and she was first of all, she was a very, very elegant lady. And I remember that she was very, very, very much filled with racial pride.
By the time she was cast in Gone with the Wind, Hattie had enough clout to insist on certain script changes.
She refused to use the word nigger in Gone with the Wind, and David O. Selznick removed the term. She refused to talk about D-Lord. In her own way, she tried to within certain confines, depict blacks with dignity, with humor, and with intelligence.
In Gone with the Wind, Hattie poured all of her considerable talent into this role. In this scene, Mammy asks Melanie to help Rhett recover from the shock of his daughter's death.
When Dr. Meade said her neck broke, Mr. Red grabbed his gun and run out there and shoot that poor pony. And for a minute, I think he wanted to shoot himself.
It was this scene with Melanie, above all others, that moved the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences to make an unprecedented step to nominate Hattie McDaniel for an Academy Award in the category of Best Supporting Actress. For the first time in film history, a black person was in the running for Hollywood's highest honor. Hattie was thrilled. Never in her wildest dreams had she imagined being nominated for an Academy Award. But the criticism against Gone with the Wind that had been building for months would soon be aimed directly at her. Coming up next, history in the making. Hattie McDaniel becomes the first black actor to win an Academy Award.
Before her big break in Gone with the Wind, McDaniel occasionally appeared in the Our Gang comedy series as both a maid and as Buckwheat's mother. We'll be back with more on AMC's Hollywood Lives and Legends. Tonight on AMC, set sail with Henry Fonda, James Cagney, and Jack Lemmon in Mr. Roberts. Then, Whoopi Goldberg narrates a profile of the first African-American actress to win an Oscar in AMC's original documentary, Beyond Terra, The Extraordinary Life of Hattie McDaniel. And on Film Preservation Classics, Alec Baldwin hosts the widescreen version of Stanley Donen's Charade, starring Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them. The stars are out in August to show you why AMC means great movies and the stories behind them.
Look around you. What am I doing here?
Do you think time travel is possible?
I want to make him the laughing stock of Paris.
Every time you turned around, some nut was knocking off one of the best men in the country. That's the warning, huh?
What does that have to do with American history?
Great movies and the stories behind them.
I present the Academy Award to Hattie McDaniel.
This is her story.
A movie pioneer who met controversy where she least expected it.
People were picketing her.
It led to all sorts of interesting things in hotel rooms.
The backstories you never heard about the movies you'll never forget.
No need to say anything about that.
Gave me hell.
Don't you want to know the truth? The back lot stories that prove truth is stranger than fiction.
Hollywood moguls screwed you? No.
And the secret stories revealing tricks of the trade from Hollywood's hottest sets.
When you work with fire, you better work with the best.
I'm gonna suck you right in the nose. Oh, yeah?
If you want to get those little rascals, the chase ends at AMC. Frankie Muniz hosts the Little Rascals 2.0 every day. And log on to AMCTV.com for an interview with Rascal expert Leonard Maltin and more. Turn to AMC Magazine for the story of how Hal Roach turned their gang into our gang.
Would you like to join us?
AMC. See what we mean this August. Great movies and the stories behind them.
Well, what has Clark Gable or Barrymore got that Spanky hasn't?
A mustache.
Unique vision. It's the difference between an ordinary director.
There is good and there is bad.
And a great one. Hitch had his mastery of the camera. Ford used the landscape like nobody else. Capra created characters his audience could feel for.
I want you to see the beauty of giving love where it isn't merited.
Lucky for us movie lovers, they were generous with their vision. They share it every week on AMC's Director's Showcase. Tonight at 10 Eastern. Now back to more of Hattie McDaniel on AMC's Hollywood Lives and Legends.
Hattie McDaniel and the rest of the cast from Gone with the Wind attended the Academy Award ceremonies on February 29, 1940 at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. Gone with the Wind was the odds-on choice to sweep the awards with a total of 13 nominations. It was up against 3 films that would come to be regarded as American movie classics: Stagecoach, The Wizard of Oz, and Wuthering Heights. It was a groundbreaking evening. Hattie McDaniel was the first black actor ever to attend an Academy Awards ceremony. Both Hattie and her co-star Olivia de Havilland were nominated for Best Supporting Actress. But as Hattie walked to her table, she received a standing ovation. It was clear she was the favorite to win. The award was presented by actress Faye Bainter. Her speech was an echo of the changing times.
It is with the knowledge that this entire nation will stand and salute the presentation of this plaque that I present the Academy Award for the best performance of an actress in supporting roles during 1939 to Hattie McDaniel.
Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Science, fellow members of the motion picture industry, and honored guests. This is one of the happiest moments of my life, and I want to thank each one of you who had a part in selecting me for one of the awards. For your kindness, it has made me feel very, very humble, and I shall always hold it as a beacon for anything that I may be able to do in the future. I sincerely hope I shall always be a credit to my race and to the motion picture industry. My heart is too full to tell you just how I feel. And may I say thank you. God bless you.
Outside, the demonstrations against Gone with the Wind continued. Hattie's victory would be bittersweet.
In a way, her heart was broken at this time because people were picketing her. And it wasn't her they were picketing, it was the era that she had come through. They were attacking a whole generation. And yet to her, I'm sure it seemed like, why are they doing this to me?
In spite of the protests, after winning the Academy Award, Hattie's life blossomed. In 1941, she married James Lloyd Crawford, a man she'd met years earlier on the vaudeville circuit. He traveled with her on tour and seemed to relish his famous wife's stardom. But for Hattie, stardom would turn out to be a mixed blessing.
There's a gossip columnist at the time, Jimmy Fiddler, who had a radio show, who marveled at her in Gone with the Wind and celebrated her Oscar. But he said, and what's to happen now for this magnificent actress? Why, going back to playing incidental maids, of course. And he hit right on the nose. And he's saying this only a year after she got her Oscar.
Hattie's success as a mammy instantly typecast her. Black leaders may have wanted her to move beyond this role, but MGM did not. Hattie as mammy was an asset, a profit center. David O. Selznick was determined to make the most out of the success of this character. He offered Hattie to advertisers selling everything from coffee to washing machines. And even if Hattie had wanted to, they would not have let her stop playing a mammy. She was signed to a long-term contract with MGM, and just like every other contract player, she was required to take the roles that were offered her. If she refused, she would have been fired. It's that simple. Hattie opted to work. But more than once, Hattie told her friends that the movies only valued her as mammy, and she resented it. Selznick's producers had even instructed her not to lose an ounce if she wanted to hold on to her contract. They joked about her eating plenty of pancakes and fried chicken to maintain her weight, now close to 300 pounds. She was trapped. Only once did Hattie get some relief from being the stereotypical mammy. Selznick loaned her to Warner Brothers for In This Our Life, a progressive movie that featured black characters. In this film, a young black law student is accused of a murder he did not commit. Hattie McDaniel plays his mother. It was a role many wondered if Hattie could play.
Child, this seems hard to say, but what Miss Stanley told the police about my poor boy, they ain't a word of truth, so help me.
Then Perry had nothing. Minerva, how do you know that?
because Perry come home from the office, and that was about 6 o'clock, and he stayed home all evening studying some legal books.
But he took the car to wash it. Didn't he pick it up on the way?
No, ma'am. Miss Stanley called up and said she's going to use the car and for him not to bother.
But why didn't Perry say that? Why didn't he tell the police? I don't understand.
Police just come and took him off, and he tried to tell them, but they don't listen to no colored boy.
She caught on right away and played what they needed her to play. A black laundress, yes, a black laundress who stands up to white people and says, that ain't true, if it wasn't. And who was a presence in a modern movie while playing her older role.
Selznick never loaned Hattie out again. To him, she needed to remain a mammy. But America was changing, and Selznick would find that that icon he clung to would soon be completely out of favor. In December 1941, America entered World War II.
We got involved in a world war where black men were going over there and dying just like white men. Black women were at home on ration cards and no nylons the way everybody else was. It was a time when you could not be kind of antebellum in your attitudes.
Black people especially did not want to see the same old plantation movies. Empowered by World War II, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP, called on Hollywood to end black stereotypes once and for all. The campaign was led by the head of the organization, Walter White.
Walter White believed so deeply in the capacity of the NAACP to change the world. For him, as it was certainly for the entire NAACP, that meant to undo all of the bad and negative images that were being promoted about black people.
It was White who was able to translate the changing ideology of America into movies in a way minimizing traditional roles, which of course sadly meant minimizing roles that Hattie had been great at.
Walter White made a list of excessively anti-Negro pictures. At the top of his list were 3 of Hattie McDaniel's films, The Little Colonel, Maryland, and Gone with the Wind. He called his wartime campaign anti-mammyism and went after Hattie personally for playing one.
That she herself would be so singled out for attack by Walter White, the NAACP, I'm sure she found very dismaying. She had to. Here, this role was the pinnacle of her career, and here people saying, "You Tom, you, how could you do this?" Her response was, look, you have to look at this thing realistically. These are the kind of roles that are being given to us now.
As Hattie said herself, when people asked her why she kept playing maids, she said, well, what did you expect me to play? You expect me to play Red Butler's wife? And let's be realistic. She was restricted by time, and she did the best she could.
It was just one of those things, just one of those crazy things, one of those bells.
White offered Hollywood a more acceptable alternative to Hattie as a star, Lena Horne.
It was just one of those nights.
His ideal, his model was someone like Lena Horne. I mean, that's the person he really was backing. Someone who, you know, absolutely opposite of Hattie McDaniel. Glamorous, beautiful woman who could be a sex symbol.
Audiences were ready for a new kind of black woman to emerge, so that's why they promoted Lena Horne, and to some extent, that's why it was deliberately stipulated in her contract that she would not appear on the screen as a maid.
Soon, parts for Lena Horne increased, and diminished for Hattie. Hattie took the few parts she could get, all of them mammies or maids. Her battle with Walter White got uglier. White said he was disgusted at the sheer selfishness of actors like Hattie, who just wanted to save their jobs without regard for the future of Negroes as a whole. Hattie said that White was only 1/8 black anyway, and he was not qualified to speak for the race. Roles for Hattie disappeared.
She wasn't getting work as much anymore. She wrote California Senator that I have spent all my life in the entertainment business. I have entertained our troops. I've raised money for U.S. war bonds. I've tried to make a contribution to my country and to my people. And yet I can't get work. Could you please speak to someone for me?
Hattie McDaniel, in effect, had a 20-year career, divided almost in half, in that in the 30s she was honored and condemned, but more honored. After that, she often, in playing the same role, was condemned only. And I think those two Hatties defines what I think of as a tragic life. A woman who did her best throughout, but was admired for half her career, condemned for the other half. The two Hatties.
Coming up next, Hattie leaves film behind and finally finds acceptance in the new world of television.
Hattie McDaniel was the first African-American to be buried in the Rosedale Cemetery, also known as the Hollywood Forever Cemetery in Hollywood, California. We'll be back with more on AMC's Hollywood Lives and Legends. Tonight on AMC, set sail with Henry Fonda, James Cagney, and Jack Lemmon in Mr. Roberts. Then, Whoopi Goldberg narrates a profile of the first African-American actress to win an Oscar in AMC's original documentary, Beyond Terra, The Extraordinary Life of Hattie McDaniel. And on Film Preservation Classics, Alec Baldwin hosts the widescreen version of Stanley Donen's Charade, starring Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn. That's all tonight on AMC. Great movies and the stories behind them.
Hello, Mrs. Lindsay. William?
Hello, Stephen.
You're not by any chance computer shopping, are you?
Mm-hmm, if I can get some help.
Well, right now, you can get a complete Dell system with an Intel Pentium 4 processor, which is so nice, for only $9.99.
Really?
She's intrigued. Excellent. Because right now, it comes with your choice of a free CD burner or DVD upgrade. And as far as service and support, Dell's won more awards than any other PC company in the last 5 years. Just call or go online. Tell them what you want, and right to your front door comes America's favorite PC.
Thanks, Stephen.
Now you can get a Dell desktop with an Intel Pentium 4 processor, which delivers performance where you need it most. And 6 months of DellNet by MSN Internet access for just $9.99. Call or go online today and get a free CD burner or DVD upgrade. There's great deals on notebooks, too.
Dude, you're getting a Dell.
Easy to buy, easy to own, easy as Dell.
Hey everyone, I'm Frankie Muniz here to show you how easy it is to use your new upgrade to Little Rascals version 2.0. Just watch me every week, and I'll be your link to everything you've ever wanted to know about the Little Rascals. Just like that. And that. You want buckwheat? You got buckwheat. You want Spanky? You got Spanky. Hey, you want alfalfa? I'll get you alfalfa.
Join Frankie Muniz for the Little Rascals version 2.0. Weeknights at 6:30 and weekends at 8:30, only on AMC. It's hard to make an epic without breaking some legs.
It's not personal. It's strictly business.
Get all the Godfathers you could ever want in Coppola's visionary restructuring of his masterwork.
I'm gonna straighten everything out tonight.
This is one family reunion you won't want to miss. The Godfather Saga, a novel for television. This week at 6 p.m. Eastern on AMC's Saturday Classics.
I don't feel I have to wipe everybody out, Tom. Just my enemies.
Now back to more of Hattie McDaniel on AMC's Hollywood Lives and Legends.
Now, you just give me that apron right off and let Fidelia finish whatever it is you're doing.
In 1944, the last year of Hattie McDaniel's studio contract that began with Gone with the Wind, David O. Selznick cast Hattie as a maid in the World War II family drama Since You Went Away.
Them uptown folks is all right in their way, but it's that lazy trash they got working for them. Miss Hilton, I just want to board in the same quarters with them. No, ma'am. When I finishes my work, I wants my solitude and I wants my privatation.
It was the first role Hattie had been offered for months. Her character, Fidelia, is both a summary and a parody of every maid she'd ever played. She's cantankerous, self-sacrificing, and uneducated. She's a servant so devoted to this family that she offers to work for free.
So I've got it all figured out. I can work here on my days off and nights, too. You know, Miss Hilton, I'm just strong as a horse.
Hattie was grateful for the part. It would be her last substantial role.
Well, it'll be wonderful for the children and me just to have you in the house.
Miss Hilton, it's the most beautiful thing I ever heard anybody say in all my born days.
The same year that Since You Went Away was released, Hattie, now 49, had some astonishing news for her friends. She was pregnant. She announced it to the papers and threw herself an elegant baby shower. But something was wrong. Her doctor told her that she had experienced a false pregnancy. Symptoms, they said, brought on by the unmet desire to have children. Hattie was devastated. Through all her difficulties, Hattie got little support from her husband. As she got fewer parts, Lloyd refused to help out financially. Hattie said he thought because he married me, he shouldn't have to work. So Hattie divorced him, and she fell into a deep depression.
The most dramatic manifestations of her depression were her depressed mood, obviously, her gradual withdrawal from life and from people.
In her biography, there are reports that she might have attempted suicide on an occasion. So I think that was the professional decline compounded by some of the personal problems and disaster that she endured.
But even as Hattie's personal and professional life hit rock bottom, an unexpected challenge forced her back into the public eye, a battle against segregated housing. For decades, blacks, regardless of income or social standing, had been prohibited from living in certain communities because of their race. So-called restrictive covenants were passed from one owner to the next to keep the neighborhoods all white. In 1945, a group of white property owners tried to remove Hattie and her black neighbors from their homes. Hattie was outraged, so she organized her neighbors and launched a fight to abolish these restrictions. The issue eventually reached the Supreme Court, where the covenants were struck down. Hattie's victory put an end to legal housing discrimination in Los Angeles. Then, in 1947, Procter & Gamble opened a search to replace the lead for their radio comedy, The Beulah Show. Now, for years, the voice of Beulah, a black housekeeper, had been played by a white male. But for the first time, the producers decided to hire a black woman instead. Hattie had reservations about playing yet another maid. But what could she do? It was that or nothing. So, Hattie took charge. She insisted on editorial control. She refused to speak in what they thought was a Negro dialect, and her salary was a whopping $2,000 a week, twice what she earned on Gone with the Wind. Hattie had never been so popular as she was as Beulah, not even in the movies. She received hundreds of adoring fan letters. The Beulah Show ran for 3 years on CBS Radio. In 1950, The Beulah Show made the transition to television easily.
Don't let nobody tell you that I'm in the market for a husband. Of course I would be, but they don't sell husbands in the market.
But at the height of her popularity, after filming only one episode, Hattie became ill. She was diagnosed with breast cancer. She spent the next year in and out of the hospital, and in the spring of 1952, she had to give up Beulah. But her desire to perform would stay with her until the very end of her life. old vaudeville friend, Ed Wynn, had one of the most popular shows at the time, and he asked Hattie to appear as Beulah. It would be her last performance.
This is an invention to do away with mice. This is a new mouse trap.
Yeah?
Show you what it is. It's a little mouse television set.
That's a nice invention, but there ain't no mice around our house. I run them all over with not singing.
Can you sing, Beulah? I didn't know that.
Can I sing?
Yeah.
Sure
Well,
will.
go ahead, go ahead.
Well, with apologies to Miss Sophie Tucker, some of these days, hit it, Professor. Some of these days, you're gonna miss me, honey. Some of these days,
I think for many Americans, the one thing that they identified with her is this rebellious spirit that she had and that she embodied, because there were moments when she spoke when others could not speak, and there were spaces that she was allowed to occupy that others were not allowed to occupy.
Her legacy has been an acting legacy, a humanistic legacy, and she did everything possible to make life more bearable and more creative for the generation who succeeded her.
I don't think she ever received the recognition. And of all the people out there acting, I cannot lie, she was my favorite.
She was marvelous. She was a star.
Even at the end of her career, despite the fact that some people might regard her as a tragic figure, really Hattie McDaniel is having the last laugh, because we still have her performance as a testament to her brilliance and talent as an actress and to her star power in this particular time period.
On October 26, 1952, Hattie McDaniel died. On the day of her funeral, after the service, the procession of cars from the church to the cemetery was one of the largest Los Angeles has ever seen. Before Hattie died, she willed her Oscar to Howard University, a historically black college in Washington, D.C. During the student protests of the 1960s, the statue disappeared and was never found. Was the statue deliberately removed as a final protest against Hattie and what she came to represent? Or was it an innocent casualty of the turbulent times? No one knows for sure, but much like the missing Oscar, the legacy of this groundbreaking actor was also lost, her incredible accomplishments all but forgotten. But Hattie McDaniel deserves to be remembered. She spent the better part of her life pursuing her dreams of being an actor. She persevered in the face of overwhelming obstacles. This took courage, determination, and it took talent. And by and large, she succeeded in a way no other black actor had ever done before. Before she died, even her critics finally acknowledged her achievements and praised her for being an outstanding actor, and a credit to her race. She was also a credit to the movies and to an industry that she loved. Hattie always said simply that this is exactly how she'd like to be remembered. Hattie McDaniel, actor, film pioneer, star. A credit to her race.